Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kokona, Wisconsin, riding a CST Tires SSI decals traveling back Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody? We're back. I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Welcome to episode 83 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, our Aonia Pass review show, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, available for purchase at shop.csttires.com. We come from you tonight in the wake of another wild ATV Motocross National weekend. Not only did Aonia Pass bring us crazy racing, but it also brought us controversy, phantom disqualifications, treacherous conditions, unexpected results, and so much more to discuss. In the episode ahead, fast qualifier Brandon Hoag will join us to fill us in on that debacle. DJ Spurling, the owner of Rocket Machining and Design, will stop by to chat about Jeffrey Rastrelli's strong start to the season and how their partnership has been thus far. And to fill in all the gaps, PH3 Photos' Josh Cline and Casey Greek from Impact Solutions will help us break down all the action from Georgia. So with so much to get to, let's quickly shout out all of our incredible partners before dropping the gate on another great review episode. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nomura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrated Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Blendzall Oil, the official oil choice of Digging Deep, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Their clippers rock, their nose hair trimmer is amazing, and the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer is next level. Outside the industry sponsors are rare in our sport, so help us keep Manscaped involved with Digging Deep and involved in ATV motocross as a whole long into the future. Manscaped's signature line is the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer that I rely on to keep my beard on point, the best nose hair trimmer ever created, and an array of goodies like deodorant, boxer briefs, a travel bag, and more. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner, and get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The 2022 season is here, of course, and we both know you still need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear or parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. By using our specific link, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need anyway. And did you know you could buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. And you can do the same thing with our Amazon widget. So same concept, simply click that Amazon logo on our homepage, purchase whatever your heart desires, and that will help us out down the road. We can't thank you enough for that. We want to shout out all of our monthly donors, Justin Branham, Rob Bumsteiger, Oliver Saya, Ed Hayden, Holly Trimble, Justin Burke, and 99 Racing. And if you are interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. And major thanks to all of you who have donated. You guys freaking rock, especially our monthly donors. Now, it's showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, another wild weekend of racing is in the books. Aonia Pass gave us plenty to talk about. Looking forward to digging into all that went down in Georgia. We have a pair of guests here to help us break down all the craziness. First up is a man that I was worried I've been asking to sit in on too many of these shows with me, but he assured me that he does, in fact, enjoy it. So we enjoy and love everything that he brings to the show. Of course, from Impact Solutions, it's Casey Greek. What's up, Casey?
Hey, Cody. As long as the feedback's positive, I'm here for life, and I guarantee it. So thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, of course, Casey. I love, like I said, I love everything you bring to the show. You insert so much knowledge here. So appreciate you being here so much. And we have a third member of this trio for this show tonight. He's a returning guest, a man whose perspective I really enjoy. He's a prominent photographer in 2022 ATV Motocross now from PH3 Photos. Say hello to Josh Klein. What's up, Josh? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you getting back on here with us. And like I said, you're a guy who sees things a little bit differently. I think that sometimes that comes from being a little newer to the sport than Casey and I are. So enjoy always having you on. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. So it's been a crazy season so far, thus far in 2022 ATV Motocross, but this past weekend might have been the craziest yet, not necessarily on the track, but everything surrounding the weekend in Georgia was wild. Conditions looked picture perfect on Friday. That kind of quickly changed. By Saturday morning, you guys woke up to a mess. What were you thinking when you first saw the racetrack, for the first time on Saturday morning, Casey? What were you thinking?
Oh, I mean, we all knew it was going to rain. Unfortunately, they did rip the track Friday night. I knew we weren't going to race anytime soon. I should have went back to bed, but instead I went to work. Mm-hmm. For me, like, it was like, oh crap. Let's go. Let's start figuring out. Let's changing setups. Like, we're going to be in a complete heavy, very heavy slot fest today. And that's what I went after. And I just shot out of the trailer and started working and doing what I needed to do. But yeah, it was a mess.
So yeah, made some work for you, Casey, and for Josh, like in your role as a photographer, man, the rain and the mud, like that's the worst possible condition for your job.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like you wake up, you hear the raindrops, and it's like, okay, how long is this going to go? Like Casey said. And so you get up, you get moving in the morning, and all of a sudden you look and you take a step and you sink 3 inches into the mud. And then all of a sudden you realize all these pictures are going to look the same. How am I going to distinguish, which rider is which when I try and tell a story with the photos, when all the riders are brown? Like
brown guy.
Yeah. I mean, like, other than the leader, if you get a hole shot, you got a clear track in front of you, congratulations. You're the only one on the track where we can see your graphics.
Right.
I mean, it just, you could see Joel when he got his hole shot. Hey, there's a white quad out there. How do you have a white quad with this, and everybody else is absolutely just plastered in mud, 50 pounds of mud and soup. No, it was horrible. But you go out there, you do what you got to do. Casey woke up, he had to go out and, he would look like Frogger going trailer to trailer, getting his clients and customers taken care of. And, I got to go out and do the same thing. I got to find where everybody's at and, see what goggles they're running so I can, take care of pictures. Cause that's, for the first little bit, then they rip their goggles off after the lap because they're done with tear offs and they can't see anything.
Right.
So yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it's a challenge, but you just got to kind of push through.
It's funny seeing those photos of everybody covered, and it's been this way for years, but I always read it off of the body language and the riding style, right? Like that's how you have to tell who's who. It's funny how that works. So I've always felt for photographers in conditions like that. Okay. So Casey, take me through what's happening at the track there in the first half of the day on Saturday, because everything kept getting pushed back and delayed. So, I'm thinking like, hey, we're going to pull the plug completely on the Saturday amateur program, but lo and behold, even, it ended up being like lunchtime by the time quads were on the track, and they still decide to put amateurs out there to go racing. And I mean, hindsight's 2020, but that looked like that probably wasn't the wisest decision at that point. And honestly, even when they were making that decision, it seemed like a suspect decision to me at that point.
Yeah. So this is where like the people I keep hearing from that love my honesty that I get all the time. And so you're going to get straight honesty. So we went to the pro riders meeting and we were told, hey, we're going to put big bikes on the track for, as many motos as we can. And we're going to run at this time, and this time. We were supposed to run all 450 mini quads at the end of the day. Well, then they put super mini on the track first.
Yeah. I was wondering what the heck was going on there.
Well, and that I think all of us were. By the time I got up there to go see what was going on, Moto 4 was there, which was 90 CVT.
Okay.
And I think one the story I've been told, one of that class made one lap.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that is when they decided to cancel all amateur. Let's run WMX, which is 2 motos on Saturday, and Pro Sport, which is 2 motos on Saturday, and Pro, which is 2 motos on Saturday. And then move everything else to Sunday.
So eventually, Josh, the pros go out there for their first time qualifying session. But the way that the day was going to be structured then at that point for the pros was they were going to get one time qualifying session in those 2 motos later in the day. Tell me what the conditions were like when those pro riders did take to the track for the first time, when they finally made it out there. The track was obviously pretty treacherous. Like Casey was just saying, like very few people were even making it around the track to complete their races on the 2 or 3 motos that ran before that. So Josh, tell me what you saw when those pros took to the track for the first time.
It was still muddy. They had done a little bit of prep at one point when the dozer went out there to push some of the water off the track. I mean, it was mud, but when the dozer pushed the mud, it literally looked like a fountain coming out with the water, like a wave. And so I was like, oh boy, even a couple of the corners they didn't touch with the dozer, the pros were going to run. And I'm thinking they're going to get stuck. And, it happened to a few of them, and them going out there, granted they had a 450 class, I believe, that went out just before them. Could be wrong. But going out there and like Janusa said, it may be, comical and fun to the weekend warrior, but when you got a race machine like that and you're going out there and put a qualifier, he goes, it's not really that, what pleasant for the riders. So them going out there and the conditions that they had, hey, power to them, and, for being smart. And if they took 3 laps and just called it good and then took their gate pick from there. But most of the track was tough for, condition wise. It's muddy. The whole track's mud.
Yeah, for sure. You could tell. I mean, it was bad, and I knew it was going to be bad because typically, like on a mud scenario, when the track is muddy, you'll have other quads out there to help it come around, right? And there wasn't much, riding on the track up till that point. Really, just enough riding had taken place at that point to like basically cancel the amateurs,
Well,
So yeah,
there was enough of the amateurs that went out there to solidify the original plan of no amateurs, or why are we going to put, the smaller quads out there to start with? And now you got 8 minis with blown up motors, and dad's frantically trying to, get parts to rebuild and thinking that they're going to race another race. Well, it just basically made a point. Okay, we're done with that.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, because I didn't sit on all the meetings, had everything waited until say noon or 1 o'clock, I think there would have been enough time for prep and again, like Casey said, put the big bikes out there. You put the minis out at the end, would have been a complete day of racing. But unfortunately, that's not the way things shook out, and the rest is history.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, like obviously, and again, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, obviously, like the way things went down, I think there were just the whole day, like everybody was adjusting on the fly, and that was, kind of the powers that be were doing the same thing as well. So you'd think there wouldn't be too much to cover with time qualifying, especially in these types of conditions with, conditions being so poor, but there somehow happened to be a debacle regarding, fastest qualifier and the first gate pick that gets awarded to that fast qualifier. So we're going to get Brandon Hoag in here to fill us in a little bit on what the heck happened in that qualifier and what ensued after that. So we're going to throw it to Brandon Hoag. All right, guys, this guy has been fast so far this season. He's found new life on a new team here in 2022. Brought to you by Blendzall, the oil choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. To learn more about Blendzall's rich heritage or to shop Blendzall's full line of racing lubricants, visit blendzall.com and follow them at Blendzall on Instagram. Your fast qualifier at Aonia Pass. Say hello to Mr. Brandon Hoag. What's up, mate? Welcome back to the show.
What's up, mate? Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, man, always happy to have you on. So there's some confusion that we have to dig into a little bit here, but even before that, before we get to qualifying any of that, so as a rider, tell me about Saturday morning. Even like for me from afar, it always seems so hectic when, schedules are getting moved and times are getting changed and everything's getting pushed back. Like everybody, especially riders, like everybody wants to keep a schedule, right? Like I know that you're that way. And when everything gets changed, it always feels so crazy. But eventually you guys did hit the racetrack after, stalling and things getting pushed back and everything like that. And when you guys did hit the racetrack, it was pretty treacherous. So tell me about the morning and then obviously getting to the racetrack when you guys finally did hit that thing.
Yeah. Like I didn't know. I knew we had a riders meeting, which they were likely going to push things back. But yeah, we kind of all got that squared away in the morning, and we found out the time. So yeah, like the later in the day, the better with the way the weather was there. So we all pushed for later in the day. And yeah, once the rain stopped, the track slowly dried, but there weren't many quads on the track. So we just knew that it was going to be a full blown mudder. Like I knew it would be big tires the whole day. So, but yeah, it was just at that point, like prepping goggles and the big tires and the mud prep and stuff. But yeah, we all knew it was going to be a mudder for sure.
Yeah, obviously, especially, and like you said, I mean, the program, they were trying to have it go on like normal. They were trying to have some of the amateur racing, and after a couple races, it just wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. Maybe that should have been the decision made from the very beginning. But yeah, for you guys, you're sitting on the line. You're going to hit this racetrack. It's like obviously super muddy. There's people getting pulled off left and right. Most people aren't surviving this thing. And then for you, like there's obviously some calculating going on because you need to go out there and log a quick lap time. But at the same time, like you don't want to put your machine through too much to risk, doing some damage to that thing going into the motos ahead. So tell me about like that calculating a little bit, because you only completed a few laps, but on the third lap, you put together a flawless one. That's the word you used to me. You put together a flawless lap. So tell me about, the thought going into that, how tough it was knowing like, hey, I can't tax this machine too much right now. And then, putting together that perfect lap. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was asking a bunch of people on the gate, like, hey, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to go one lap or what? Right. Then I kind of actually I let people go. And then I just watch what Joel and Chad do. Like they've been in the game and they just know what to do. So yeah, I went out before them. Like I came out behind Stanfield and I was blown away how muddy it actually was. But yeah, we all just, like I did my green flag lap or whatever you want to call it. And I think at that point, like Chad hadn't even moved yet, or Joel or one of them hadn't even moved yet on the starting gate. And I'm like, okay, so they're going to wait a little while to see if the line can get blown in. And that's like what my plan was too. So I went to the mechanics area. Like I sat there for most of it, or a good amount of it, like watching, over the riders and seeing how muddy they were and everything. But yeah, I really didn't know how to do it. So I was just trying to ask everyone like, hey, dude, do you mind? Are you going to do one lap or what? So yeah, that's what I did. And then I went back out on the track on like towards the end of the qualifier. I think there's only like one lap left or something. So yeah, that's what I did, just to try to have at least one line in the track.
Yeah. So, and the reason like why I'm asking this, and it almost seems weird to ask it because we've all been in plenty of mud race situations or whatever, but it felt like it was so muddy. It wasn't like a normal mud situation. Like it felt like you said, you couldn't believe how muddy it was. Like, I feel like this is worse than, the majority of the mud situations that we've been in. When you got, at least, especially when you guys went out there for that qualifier, like it feels like there was landmines out there. Like you guys had to be careful of where you did and didn't go, because you might end up stuck right in the middle of the racetrack.
Yeah, like there were sections that were worse than others. Like some of the track was pretty good, and then all of a sudden you would come across a turn and like almost come to second gear, like rolling speed, because it was so soft. So yeah, I was blown away at that really, really soft stuff. Like I watched Stanfield almost get stuck on the right before the finish line. He like gave me the thumbs up, and like he was almost stuck just trying to get through it. And I'm like, oh man.
Oh my gosh, that's when you know it's bad. So tell me about this perfect lap. So you put together this flawless lap, and you were telling me before we hit record on this thing that you could just feel how good this lap was. So tell me about that.
Yeah, right as I was pulling back on the track, Chad was in front of me, and I watched him go through the back section, which was like doubles and then a double and then like a single. But it was the fastest part of the track we could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I had to nail that, right? Because every other place was pretty slow anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. And even right when I went across the finish line, like every section before that was, I came in hot. I mean, pretty hot in everything you could. And then I hit that back section and I nailed it. So I wasn't even able to do that much like in the race. So I just nailed it perfect. You know what I mean? And then after that, one of the ruts, I nailed it. I didn't blow, like I didn't come in too hot or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't blow any turns. I did all the smart lines, and like the finish line, right, was the muddiest part right before the finish. And I like came in with a ton of speed and was like drifting sideways and got to the driest part there was and like went over the roller, and I knew the whole lap was like, it had to be up there for sure. Yeah. So right when I crossed, like I pulled off and I was expecting a good position. I didn't even know what position I got, but I knew there was no way like multiple guys were doing that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there is that gut feeling that you get obviously when you cut a good lap like that. So you pull off the track, didn't matter what place you're in, you knew it was good. So you're happy with that. So then tell me like what happens after that, because you know, I posted about you being fast qualifier and all these things. And then like, I hear rumblings later on that there was something in question. So just tell me like, what the hell happened after that? That's all I want to know.
Yeah. Well, it started with when I was in the mechanics area, Kevin Bailey had said that there was an issue with my transponder. So right away we made sure, hey, like, what do we have to do? Do we have to go to eScore? Like, you know, we'll get this fixed right now. That way we're not wasting a qualifier, and we had to qualify. So,
right.
And we were told that we're being, it's okay. We're being manually tracked. Like someone is, you know, tracking the time or whatever. So I was good to go do a lap, you know? So that's what I was told. Never thought anything of it. Got notified of anyone talking about the time being fake or anything like that. All I kept hearing over the intercom even was like Hoag was fastest, and that like it was all good vibes. Like that's what our plan was. We needed a good gate pick, and then I went up to the staging. We have to be up 20 minutes before, and that's when I was notified that I go from first to dead last. Which, like I said, I had no way to fight that. I was never aware that I was under protest or anything. So no, there was no proof. Like people had said that I'd cut the track and whatnot. There was no proof of that. I did not cut the track. Like I even sent you in a private message. I have a GPS like of the entire lap. So yeah, like all the cutting the track is all not true, you know? So yeah, it just sucks. I couldn't fight that. I feel like in that type of situation with the mud, you really need a good gate pick. And I feel like I deserve to fight that for sure. You know, even if the way that the transponder was manually tracked or whatever. Like I said, we made sure we did everything correct before I even did a lap. So he could have, you know, someone could have said, hey, you need to go to, and I rented the transponder. So this thing was charged. I paid for it. Like, it's not my personal transponder. So yeah, I just feel like, you know, we did everything we were supposed to do. So.
Okay. So there's a couple things I want to touch on here. The first one being, in listeners on my show know this, you know this, that I go out of my way. I'm not into drama. That's not why I asked. I don't like I'm just not about that. I'm not about, you know, the drama stuff. I'm not about, you know, drawing negative attention to anything to do with ATV motocross, nothing like that. So that's not what this is about. But when I heard that you didn't, you know, because you were fast qualifier. When I heard that you didn't get first gate pick, for being fast qualifier, like my blood boiled, because like you said, you had a GPS, and you told me this later, but you had a GPS tracker on your watch, right? So you were able to confirm the lap. Like you can literally see it, you can show it. So that's one thing. The other thing the people that think like if there's legitimately people out there that think that you cut the track, Brandon, let's just go over this. You could not cut the track at this racetrack, because if you would have cut the track, you would have buried your quad and got stuck, because we saw people go off the racetrack on accident and get stuck because they got off the racetrack. So no, you did not cut the track. You had proof that this lap was legit. And the fact that you didn't get notified until you were on the gate to go to the first moto, the fact that you didn't even get a chance to, to speak your piece, to say, hey, like, I got all this proof, man, like, that makes me so angry, because, and I told you this before, like, being fast qualifier is a huge deal. This would have been the first time that ever happened for you. Right. And the fact that you didn't get honored the way that you should have, because again, you were fast qualifier. They didn't steal that from you, but they did steal first gate pick from you. And that's crap. And you don't need to say another word, but it's just like, it's almost like nothing needs to be said, because it's just so wrong to me. But
that's the only reason I'm still like, I just won't let this one go. I'll let a lot of stuff go. Like I'll let, trust me, a lot of stuff go, but this one I just can't, because I do feel like my results would have been different. And this is what I do. Like, this is what I do for a living. This is my whole life, everything. So I can't let this one go. And hopefully it'll never happen again, for sure. But I mean, I feel like, I know names, and I know people involved in this stuff, and I definitely lost respect, and it is what it is. I really wish I could, I do want to call some people out, but you know what? Like you said, we don't want to bash the sport and everything. The sport's great. I love the sport. So yeah, I just hope it never were to happen again.
And honestly, I just wanted people to know, like, that's what the show is here for, is to fill the gaps of stuff that went on behind the scenes that people don't know about, or people are wondering about, or whatever. That's what I told you earlier today. Cause I'm like, hey, we're not coming on the show to blow anybody out. Like, that's, as much as a person wants to do that, that's not what this show is here for. There was this focus around fast qualifier though, and like whatever the hell happened there. And we wanted to be able to fill people in. So that's why I wanted to touch on that. So grateful that Brandon gave us a little bit of his time to talk about what happened there. So ultimately, Brandon, so you go from having this gigantic advantage with first gate pick, obviously, and I told you this before, but probably like the most important start where you could have wanted first gate pick in recent memory. So you go from having that gigantic advantage to having last gate pick. You probably started in a gate that hadn't been touched all day by any other quad. So I hate to make excuses, but you probably never even had a chance there. You needed a good gate pick to be in the front of that start, and you didn't get that opportunity. And I don't know, man, like that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I was super pissed off right before the gate, but I mean, like, Brett was helping me, telling me, I can still yank it. And honestly, like, I had a gate to where, like, if my jump was good, I could try to squeeze in front of the guys next to me and then, do what I could. But a lot of me still knew, like, man, I had to come over so far that it would take like a Michael Essie, guess in the gate to like get to the center of the track. And then, so yeah, but I mean, it just, like when you're so mad in that moment, I just didn't even, I don't know. I was really pissed off, and I'm usually never pissed like that. So I wasn't used to the way I reacted. And I should have been a lot more like calm and whatnot, but dude, it's so easy to say that. And then, yeah, I was just so pissed off. I couldn't even think about the race or anything like that.
Well, you were so blindsided, you thought it was a joke,
yeah.
So I can't blame you for being upset there.
Yeah. Like I don't know. Like I said, I wish I would have known that it was under protest or something, but
yeah,
it is what it is. And like we still did pretty decent. But I'm not happy with pretty decent at that race, just because I felt like it was definitely, I was more capable better, but yeah.
Yeah, I was there for the taking. Yeah, I feel like that we've went over that a few times where like that's not the way the race was supposed to go. Like you used those words to me already talking about the weekend, but yeah, like you said, I think that you salvaged it as best you could. So explain to people, Brandon, what racing in conditions like that, like what that's like, because advancing forward through that kind of roost while you're already covered in mud and the inevitable one line track that typically develops in a mud race, like even the best of the best struggle in those types of conditions without a good start. But you were able to race up to 8th in that first moto. And like, at least to me, like that was really impressive considering all that you had to overcome at that point. Like you were in a battle before the gate even dropped, right? And then to go out there and race forward and salvage an 8th in the opening moto there, actually, like to me, was pretty darn impressive. And it helped you salvage the day overall by getting an 8th in that first moto.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in races like that, it was so single file that I would just be behind the rider. And if there were no places noticeable that I could try to make a pass or put a wheel in, I literally just made the decision to have to wait. Like I'll have to wait and this guy's going to have to make a mistake, which actually that happened a lot. Like, you know, a rider wrecked right in front of me. A lot of people blew berms and stuff. So it was just like at least that first moto for sure. It was just trying to see if there was anything, but if there wasn't, literally play it out, maybe give a couple revs in a turn to like scare someone. But like I had Wesley behind me and I was like, man, this is going to suck for both of us. Cause like, we're not going anywhere. Like it seriously felt like we were going super slow. The second moto was a little bit better because there were like 3 to 4 parts of the track where there was 2 lines. So I would just stay back the entire entire lap until those spots came. And right when those spots came, I'd pull a tear off and like make sure I'm on the dude's exhaust and like try to make a pass. Like even towards the end, like me and Decker had a really good, like when I got to Decker, I had to pull my goggles off and I knew right there, like the only way I was making a pass was if I was so close to him, the roost wasn't hitting my eyes. And then, you know, made the pass. But like, yeah, it's just a strategy game, which it's surprisingly, it is kind of still fun. But
right.
Yeah, the hardest part's like your helmet. Like it's not even the goggles. It's your helmet is so heavy that it flies down and then you can't see because your helmet's straight down. You know what I mean?
It's so funny. So people that have been there, you know, and have experienced this are going to know exactly what you're talking about, because it feels like you have a bucket on your head. Like the whole thing is like, you know, like it just feels like you're sunken in that thing more than normal. It's like you said, it feels so heavy. It's like you're, you know, it's like, I don't know, like you're trying to hold your head higher, but that doesn't really affect it because it's hanging down on your head. It's so funny. So like you said, the conditions seemed a little better for Moto 2 there. There was obviously some spots, you know, where there's some dual lines, some multiple lines and some corners and stuff, but it seemed to like develop some gnarly train track ruts, and those ruts seemed to get like almost like rough kind of. So it almost seemed like that second moto was kind of like a different animal than the first moto.
Yeah, it was. And the ruts were super deep. So like we made sure my bike was pretty high ride height wise and stuff and made bike changes. But yeah, it was like just super deep ruts, still one line. So we, you know, that's why the ruts got so deep and rough. But yeah, like you just had to play it safe most of the time. And there were a couple pretty slick lines that developed, which were cool. But yeah, it was just making sure your bike was tall enough to not drag through those ruts.
Yeah, definitely. And for you, like Moto 2 was pretty, like it was semi-similar to that first Moto. But this time, like you were able to race forward up all the way to 5th, race forward in both motos, up to 5th in that second moto. So 8.5 scores helped you salvage the day. You managed 5th overall. And like when the dust settled and obviously like didn't know all the backstory, didn't know all of the stuff that went on before the first moto, but knew you had to race forward in both motos, and came from a long ways back, you know, especially in that first one. Like I know that you're never going to be happy with 5th overall, but man, like that had to feel like a bullet dodged almost on a day where conditions were super poor and all the stuff that you were dealt, like you were dealt a pretty difficult hand. You had to come away from that feeling pretty good. Like, I know you're not going to be happy with fifth, Brandon. I get that. Could have been much worse than the way it actually ended up going. You salvaged a pretty solid day despite all the other crap.
Yeah, I didn't know I got fifth in the second one. It felt like I was in last. So yeah, like it was at least good to at least get a 5. But like, after the race, I looked at all the lap times and stuff, and to me, it's embarrassing for sure. But I mean, I'm not, it's in my head. I know what I was capable of. Like the, sure, it's funny to say like, oh, you can qualify first, but then you're way off in the races, but people don't understand. So it's like, I'm happy with the passes I made, and like, I'd rather start the season off bad and hopefully turn it around. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we're only what, 3 rounds in, so I'm doing a lot better than it could be. Like, I could have some pretty a lot worse results. So we're at fifth in points, and like, let's just yeah, I mean, the rest of the tracks are pretty sick. I like them, and hopefully no rain and whatnot. But yeah, I'll take the 5 right now for sure.
Oh, dude. Okay, so 3 races in, you're fifth in points, and that's even with that 13th at the opener when you broke while leading. Like you, I mean, think about if that wasn't in there. Like, you're right where you need to be, where you're right where you should be right now. And honestly, like, it hasn't been easy for you, but to still feel like everything is right in front of you. Like, I have to feel like that's a pretty good feeling. Like, again, like, it kind of similar to the race weekend on Saturday, the race day on Saturday. Like, you'd had to deal with a bunch of crap, but you're still ended up in good position. That's how I feel like your season has been so far. Like, man, like, you've went through some stuff, and you told me about some stuff. Like, there's more to, I mean, you've been dealing with a little bit of something, it seems like, the whole season so far, yet you're fifth in points, and you're right there. It's all right in front of you. Like you said, you're 3 races in, man. Like, I don't know, like, it could be so much worse is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, and it feels like you're on the precipice of, man, being a podium guy every weekend. Like, that's what it feels like to me right now. Like, you could go on a run here, Brandon. It's all right in front of you.
Yeah, that's why I mean, I am happy with the progress I feel on the machine when I'm riding. I seriously feel different. I feel progress. I feel speed progress even.
Good.
So yeah, I just hopefully the rest of this year, like, to me, every time I think about the 3rd place position, I always think to myself that place is mine. And that's why it sucks that I can't show that right now. Like, I mean, Max has a podium, Jeff has a podium, Bryce has a podium, no Hoag. So like, that eats at me a little bit, but like I said, I feel like I have a lot of progress inside. So yeah, I mean, let's just keep going racing, and hopefully I can put it on the box.
Oh, well, I think there's no doubt in my mind that that's coming, Brandon. You had one in the bag at the opener, right? So, yeah, I think, and again, like, anybody that's watching you has watched you so far this season, has seen, you're a podium guy, like, no doubt in my mind. So last question for you, pal. You have to be stoked to head to High Point. That's probably a perfect place for the series to go, at least in your book. Those conditions fit you so well. It fits your riding style so perfectly. You slayed it there last year. You put it on the podium with 3.3 moto scores. I have a feeling, Brandon, that we could see another podium performance out of you next weekend. I have to believe that you're stoked to go to High Point, especially, that's probably just a welcome sight for you after some of this stuff you went through so far, to go somewhere that's been so good to you over the years.
Yeah, I mean, that place has been good to me for sure. So hopefully it's good to me again, but I'm excited. I mean, I feel like this bike that I'm on right now is going to do well there. Like, my engine package with Johnny is insane, and all the suspension stuff, like, should be good, man. I mean, even, yeah, it's just, that stuff feels like home to me, but I really don't want to get my hopes up. And then, like, I'd rather, I've said this multiple times, I'd rather just let the riding talk. But we had an interview last year right before High Point, I remember, and it turned out good. So maybe this is a good thing to do right before High Point again.
Right. Yeah. You probably said the exact same thing to me, Brandon. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to, I don't want to jinx it or whatever. I'm just going to go out there and do my laps, and turned into a podium. So hopefully that happens again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Hopefully, I know I said that last year, so I'm just going to say it again.
Yeah, there you go. And this music racing team has been awesome to you so far, huh? It's been a perfect marriage.
Oh, yeah. Like each race, I'm liking it more and more. Like, I hope these guys have me forever. Like, these guys are awesome. I mean, like, I just wish, man, I wish people could experience it. I've said that too, but like, CD will come off the track and like, he's so happy, and we're talking about lap times and heart, his heart rates and like everything I'm into, they're into. And like, yeah, man, our whole with the, like the vibe, man, it's just a good vibe. Like, it's so happy and never talks about anything negative or money or anything. It's exactly how racing should be and how it's felt when I was younger. Like, it's really fun right now, for sure.
I think I said that to you, right? Like, it's got that amateur vibe. It's got like that, up and coming vibe with those guys. And I can't imagine, like, I just have to imagine that that's just such an awesome environment to race out of, like, I don't know, like, it's just like you said, it's how it used to be. Or it's how it should be. It's how it's supposed to be. Like, I don't think there's any better way to say it.
Yeah. And like, it's so cool. Look how good Brett's doing right now. Like, I think he was a little underrated. Like, I know when we rode at Orlando testing race bikes, like, I knew he was fast. So it's cool to see him have success. And like, just, I mean, he's a funny guy. Like, I really like Brett, man. Like, just some of our conversations and stuff. But yeah, he's a hard worker. I'm super pumped he's having some success right now. Like, it's just, yeah, man, it's really, really cool.
Hey, if there was anybody out there that was doubting the guy or like wasn't at the top of their radar, that person was not me, because he gets such good starts. He's gnarly. Like, he's, he can, it's like at times he can match anybody's lap time. There was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be really solid. So awesome to see how good you guys, everybody in your crew there has done so far. But Pell, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I appreciate you giving us a glimpse into your race day there, the qualifying situation, the way you salvaged your day. Your year so far has been awesome. So as always, I just appreciate every time that you give us some of your time here on the podcast. I appreciate it so much, Pell.
Yeah, thank you, Cody. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks again, mate. Good luck in PA. Put that thing on the box.
I'll try, man. Thank you.
Awesome. That's Brandon Hoag right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by Blenzall. See you, Pell.
Yeah.
We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. We used to speak of a CST takeover, but now 2022 is the year of CST supremacy. CST's Pulse MXR tires are the choice of Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, meaning CST tire riders are in contention for pro class wins and a possible podium sweep every time they hit the racetrack. CST tires are also the official tire choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, but you already knew that. I, your host Cody Jansen, helped pioneer the CST takeover with Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears on my way to back-to-back national championships and a pro sport podium to cap off the 2021 season. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offer the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Did I mention they offer contingency payouts as well? Visit shop.CST Tires to join the CST takeover today or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many more believe and trust in CST Tires. Do you? You already know we're Team Blue Crew now more than ever here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. And whether it's 8-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV Motocross history, or 7-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, who is now tied for second all-time in titles won, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This continued and unprecedented success for the Yamaha YFZ 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undisputable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in an ever-growing Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Best yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and stronger than ever here in 2022, meaning Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payouts and prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com. Follow them at Yamaha Outdoors on social media and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and, oh yeah, 6-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milliken. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship-winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. Since 2001, Namura has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Namura's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Namura's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, industry-leading top-end repair kits, and recently added connecting rods, visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world, visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
All right, guys, we're back here with Casey Greek and Josh Klein on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. We heard from Brandon Hoag there. I don't want to get in any deeper. I know you don't want to get into this any deeper. What I will say is I feel for Brandon because, you know, as a competitor, like I can put myself in that situation and, you know, the fact that he wasn't told ahead of time, like I can see how he'd be fired up. And the fact that he wasn't told ahead of time, he is able to confirm that lap time with his watch. So just the fact that like he didn't get to speak his piece before getting to the line, the referee's saying, hey, like you're going to have 16th or 17th gate pick, and him thinking that they're joking with him. The fact that it went down that way is probably what hurts me for Brandon. And like you said, I mean, he was like, in my mind, he was fast qualifier, no doubt in my mind. I don't like the way that it was handled necessarily. And I can see why from his perspective, it's like, hey, I was wronged here. So at least wanted to touch on it. I wanted to talk to Brandon, and I think I'll leave it at that. After all that, I kind of need a palate cleanser after all that. So Casey, what do you have planned for this week's Impact Solutions Impact Moment where we highlight something good and positive happening in ATV motocross?
Danica Wienen and Carly Hetrick and their kids playing on the bleachers behind the podium while Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen on the podium doing their podium speeches. And I look out of the corner of my eye and all I see is Carly and Danica running up and down the bleachers, chasing kids. And to me, that was like the most impactful moment of my career in this sport. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the two greatest ATV racers in the world as of right now. Their wives and children are playing behind the podium as they're speaking on the podium for their accomplishments.
Yeah,
impact moment of the week.
Yeah, I agree. Like the two guys that would rather die probably than lose to the other one, right? Like that's how competitive they are. Yet at the end of the day, like you think of it from Carly's perspective or Danica's perspective, like nobody understands each other's role, in their husband's race program, the stuff that they go through, the sacrifices, all those things better than the other one. Like
other than those two,
right? Like Carly and
they
Danica
fully know what they sacrifice.
Exactly.
They know what they sacrifice.
Right. Like Carly and Danica know exactly what the other one's going through. And I'm sure that there is some connection there. So that's awesome. Awesome impact moment there this week. Okay. So let's get into the racing. So the first moto comes and, the thing about mud races and conditions when they're this poor after the start, like we have a pretty good idea on how the race is going to go from that moment forward. It's kind of a thing, like figure out the start, get a good start, be up front. And then man, like after that, it's probably pretty predictable. But Josh, tell me what you saw. So guys were barely making it around the second corner there. They were hardly making it like up over that little hill and joining the actual race circuit. It was so deep. It was so muddy. Those had to be some of the worst conditions I've seen for racing in a long, long time.
Yeah. The whole shot line, we know that Aonia's got one of the longest hole shots around. So you get to the hole shot line. I think the whole shot really extended all the way around the first corner to the big triple that, only one person, I believe, recall hit it this weekend. Dane Molander hit it during practice on Friday, but nobody else was jumping it. You get down, I'm going to call it the Soup Bowl because that's where everything, ended up. And you can see in the picture of Zach Decker, he ended up to his knees in this mud. I think to me, that was where the whole shot was at. And if you got in through that corner, up over that hill to the tunnel, that was your make or break. If you didn't make it clean and quick around that corner, you were going to get hung up. And from there, that's where the train began. And I say train because, one bike after another, it's a mud fest. You're getting one rider following the other as a train because there's not many rooms to pass. But and Joel goes out, gets what he needs to. And Chad said the same thing in the interview. Hole shots were key. The long run, you get a good hole shot, you set yourself up and you go from there. There was some good racing. Even though a few of them got spaced out, they still battled and people poked wheels in here and there. But it just kind of the way it is with a mud race and that track being the one lane that it ended up being.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's how it goes in mud races. It's survival, right? And Joel Hetrick ripped that whole shot and you kind of knew how it was going to go. He was followed by Jeffrey Rastrelli and Chad Wienen. And that's exactly how they would finish. Joel had a 10-second lead after just 3 laps. Tell me what you saw from the front of the pack there in the opening moto, Casey. How do you think those guys managed the conditions? Looks like the biggest hurdle might've been the lappers. Lappers might've been an issue in that first moto as it was so one-lined.
Say top 4 or 5 is a really stagnant moto, first moto. Joel was obviously Joel, and he just sprinted for 21 minutes or whatever the moto was. Jeffrey came out pissed off about Texas and felt like he deserved to be a top guy again, and that's what Jeffrey did. Chad was not himself the first moto. But I watched Bryce just suck right up on the back of Chad. He knew he couldn't make a pass. That's probably the most mature thing I've ever seen Bryce Ford do in my life.
That's something that we've been touching on all year with Bryce so far and early in the 2022 season is how mature he's been riding. But yeah, like finishing up that thought on Chad, you have to believe that he was just trying to play it safe, right? Because
yes,
you didn't want to get off the line a little bit, off that one main line a little bit and get stuck and then, go all the way back to the back. So he was playing his cards so that he was smart. He was going to get through that moto. And if 3 was what it was going to be in that first moto, that was what it's going to be. And that's how we saw it play out for Chad Wienen. So Bryce Ford, like you said, he rode smart. He was 4th throughout the entirety of this one. He did close up on Chad, but also there just wasn't really going to be moves to be made there. It was that's why it was pretty predictable from the beginning. His brother, Cody Ford, he looked like he was going to finish in the top 5, to be honest with you. He was running 5th there, and he ended up crashing mid-race while running in the top 5. He dropped a few spots because of that, and then Janusa ended up overtaking that spot, so he put it in the top 5. Does anyone else stand out to you from your memory, Josh, there in the first moto? Does anybody else stand out to you with having a good performance there in the first moto other than those top 5?
Like, you're saying with Bryce, that was probably, his one of his more, I guess,
mature.
say like
Mature.
Mature, but, educated, knowing the conditions and even being, a sophomore in the sport to the pro side, that was probably his smartest move I've seen him make. And wait until second moto to see where he's at. He knew he was good, and not having the lines to get around Chad and put a wheel in or make something happen, to take what he had. And yeah, Cody looked really good. It's unfortunate. I wanted to see him. He was very positive in the morning. He was amped up. He said, let's go for a mud race at 10 a.m. In the meeting. He goes, who else is with me? And everybody kind of looked at him like he was nuts. I mean, it's like, hey, let's go out, and, he's having fun and he's staying positive, given the situation.
Yeah. The other guy I wanted to touch on was Michael Allred. He finished 6th in that first moto. He was super impressive. He, proved himself to be a mud specialist, much like Cody Ford, who, like we said, was looking like he was going to finish in the top 5. He ended up 7th. So both of those guys were impressive. And then welcome back Wesley Wolf. That was a pleasant surprise on Friday. Casey hinted at that in the preseason, kind of knew that this might be coming. And I said this on social media, like the racing is better, like the class is better with him in it. So I'm just glad that he's back at the races, especially like the recovery, all those things. I said this to you, Casey, on the show in the preseason when we were talking about this subject. I was just worried, like in a doom and gloom scenario, that we had seen the last of Wesley Wolf in the AMA ATV Pro class. So I'm just glad to see him back at the races. I think that's awesome. The class is better with him in there. He's a guy that can dice it up at all times. He can run at the front of the pack, especially when he gets his footing underneath them. So, so stoked that he was there. Welcome back, Wesley Wolf. Okay, so let's move on to Moto 2 then. We kind of touched on everybody there at the front of Moto 1. So let's move on to Moto 2 then. And we saw Chad Wienen, the 8-time reigning and defending back-to-back champ, finally get the start that he needed. He stops the bleeding. He leads this one wire to wire. He grabs his first Moto win of the season. And I believe that had to feel good for him, Josh. That had to feel good for him to stop the bleeding with the point situation, and just probably felt good to win a moto. Like we've never seen him, not in the last decade, not get a moto win through the first, 6 motos of the year, or whatever it is at this point. So I have to believe that he was happy to go out there, grab that moto win, and kind of right the ship, kind of set a precedence going forward for the rounds ahead, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it could have been totally different too. On the whole shot, Jeffrey Rastrelli had half a bike on Chad coming around the whole shot.
He did.
And it was just enough that he got loose. Joel had to check up a little bit, got it straightened back out. But, going down that corner, it could have been totally different too. But, he stayed his high line and rolled out, got his whole shot and got the moto win.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's, a big thing to, as you said, stop the bleeding, but a boost to him to be able to go out there and get that moto win and, put himself back on the podium, as we're used to seeing. But it was a good race. The guys definitely went out there a little more drive out of a lot of them because the conditions had improved.
Yep.
At this point, you had WMX went out there, Pro Sport went out there and did their thing. So you had some lines now in the track. There's no rain at this point. It had been completely done. So, to see more of a racy Moto 2 was nice. But again, wire to wire, Chad takes it and goes.
Yeah.
Joel does his thing and Jeffrey, rounds out the podium for third. It was good. I mean, you can't say it wouldn't be different had they had the full track like Aonia normally is. Joel Joel had done some practice at the track leading up to the event, and the roller section, that was another area that guys were questionable on. But again, the mud played the factor, and it became the one line. So everybody kind of pretty much went through the same area, and it shook out as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
the track was a little better for that second moto. We talked about that with Brandon Hoag a little bit. The track was better. It was different though. Like there was multiple places where there was multiple lines at the same time. Yep. Like those train track ruts and stuff were getting rough, and it was getting like there was different hurdles than what we saw in that first moto. And touching on Chad Wienen there, then like to tie that whole thing up. I posted about this last night on the Digging Deep social media accounts, but it was his 125th overall podium for Chad Wienen's professional career there. And man, like that's just a number that is nearly impossible to wrap your head around. 125 weekends where Chad Wienen stood on the podium in the pro class. That's amazing. And from one legend to the other, who is the other legend who is currently still actively racing, Joel Hetrick made it interesting there in Moto 2. As much as we talk about Chad Wienen getting that win, Joel Hetrick made it interesting. And in those conditions, that's a really impressive feat. But ultimately, he goes 1-2 for the overall victory and extends his points lead to 21 over Chad Wienen. Everyone in the Hetrick camp has to be absolutely stoked with the nearly perfect start to the season for Joel Hetrick. Like, even though he finished second there, and I was, I watched Gloop's videos and the Rip It Up film stuff, and you can tell like he knew that was good there in the second moto. Like he came away from that moto feeling like it was almost a win for him. I mean, he, as much as Chad needed that moto win, Joel obviously came away from it feeling good because he almost made a statement, even though he finished second. And then the other thing that stands out to me about like motos like this is always so interesting to me, that even in the mud, even in these treacherous conditions, different situations that you see in mud races, there are obviously guys that, are a little bit better in the mud. I always felt like I was one of those guys. I was pretty good in mud conditions, but I think, to me at least, it just shows how good those top two or top three or whatever, but mostly the top two are, because those are all timers that we're talking about when we're talking about Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen. For those guys to always be at the front, still at the tip of the spear, even when conditions are like that, to me, it just proves that that's why they're the best of the best. That's why they're two of the best to ever do it, the best to ever, strap on their boots, put a helmet on. Like, doesn't matter the conditions, they go out there and do it time in and time out. That's one of my biggest takeaways from this weekend in mud races in general. It's always so impressive to me. So a hot start for Joel Hetrick, obviously. There. And speaking of hot starts, Jeffrey Rastrelli got another great start. He rode smart for fourth in that second moto to clinch second podium finish of the season so far with third overall. Let's get his mechanic and right-hand man in here to chat about another stellar day for Jeffrey. All right, guys, I'm stoked to talk with this next guest once again. His name has come up on a lot of recent shows, whether it be with Dana Creech, Factory Sam Rowe, or his old pal turned rider, Jeffrey Rastrelli. Brought to you by Manscaped and their Weed Whacker electric nose hair trimmer. Man, do I love that thing. Get 20% off plus free shipping by using code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. He's a friend of mine and friend of the show from Rocket Machining and Design. It's Mr. DJ Spurling. What's up, Deej? Welcome back to Digging Deep.
How's it going, Cody? Good to be back on. I was excited when you shot me a text and wanted to talk about everything. After hearing some of the most recent episodes, I was excited to talk a little bit more myself and get back on and talk to you again.
Yeah, man, looking forward to it. I've been wanting to do this for a while now after all the things that we saw transpire over the last handful of months. We were kind of just chatting about that before we hit record here. But man, I feel like so much has changed since the last time, really since the last time I talked to you, but for sure since the last time we had you on. I have to believe things are a lot busier nowadays for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Between obviously the business and everything that we got going on with Jeffrey and Rustrelli Racing, and it did go really fast. Like we'll lay out the entire timeline, but man, like it has picked up really fast. So the fact that we haven't talked necessarily that long ago, the amount of change and things both in my life and everything else is it's went really fast.
Yeah, for sure. So that's obviously one of the biggest key things I want to touch on here, because we know that you guys at Rocket Machining and Design teamed up with Jeffrey Rastrelli to basically like create a team of your guys' own this season. We went through some of that when Jeffrey made his announcement right here on the show, but I was curious, and that's why I wanted to get you on, because I was curious to hear from your perspective how it all came together. Like, how did you two first get in contact about a potential partnership between you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jeffrey actually gave me a call one day and just said, "Hey, look, I'm starting my own program this year. I haven't completely confirmed everything with Phoenix yet, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be on my own program. And I was just looking to see if you'd help me out this year and everything else." And I was like, "Absolutely, man. Like, let me know what you're going to need." And the normal conversation that a lot of riders I have with riders. And that was kind of it. And we hung up the phone. Well, like a day went by, and we were sitting at lunch with everyone in the lunchroom, and I was like, "Man, like, wouldn't it be cool to be like the title sponsor of like a pro rider? I mean, like, what? I wonder what, like, if Jeffrey would like consider that." And I wonder what it would take. And everyone kind of was like, "Yeah, that'd be pretty cool." And we just kind of started thinking about it. Well, I texted Jeffrey, and I was like, "Hey, just throwing it out there. Like, don't even, take this seriously, I guess. I'm more or less just kind of like, trying to see, like, what would it take, And so we talked back and forth for a while, and him and Nikki came up with a plan for everything. And at the time, it was still a little bit like, there was a period about 6 months ago that Rocket, like, people don't necessarily know that, like, the ATV stuff side of Rocket isn't our primary business. Mm-hmm. Like, it's very small portion of it. And so it wasn't necessarily a great time for Rocket. So when we started putting all of this stuff together with Jeffrey, and we finally came up with a proposal that I think both sides of us were okay with, it was still like a really large commitment for us and our team, both, time and financially. I mean, we couldn't necessarily balance it. And finally, like, my dad and I had a conversation about it. We were like, let's do it. I mean, we're probably never going to have this chance again. Like, we'll figure it out. And and I'm not saying that things have gotten substantially better, but things are definitely moving in a much more positive direction at Rocket. And it's been good. So good. Finally, we committed to Jeffrey, and we started talking a little bit about like how this is all going to like look and work, like whether or not I'm just, supplying in parts. Initially, my biggest thing was I wanted to select the colors of the bike. Yep. That's really it initially. And then we kept talking more, and I was like, "Well, what do you think about me like building the bike?" He goes, "No way, dude. Like, are you serious?" He goes, "I was thinking about that the entire time, but I didn't want to ask you because I thought it might be like a little bit much and everything else." And I was like, "Well, I mean, it makes a lot more sense. Like, if I can get all the parts and like I can take that burden off from you and everything else, I think it'd just be a lot easier for everyone, especially with you trying to start your own gig and everything. Like, this could be a big help for you." Mm-hmm. And so we tracked down a bike in the local area and started building as quickly as we could, probably 3 to 4 months before the season started, which again, like we talked about, is like a very, very, very short timeline to start building a bike before the season. Mm-hmm. And we managed to pull it off.
Things changed so quickly there. They escalated so quickly, I should say. That things escalated so quickly there from, you're looking into maybe being a part of this program. What does it look like? Picking at it a little bit to figure out, what it looks like to be a title sponsor of something like this. And then all of a sudden you're building the bikes, DJ. Like, everything changed almost overnight. It's crazy. It's spiraled.
Yeah, and that's how like everything in my life is like that. Like, it starts out like surface level, and before I like 1 hour later I'm in over my eyeballs, like, yeah, that's exactly how everything's worked. And so yeah, it went really fast. And then really even going into the mechanic side of it, like, I don't know, like, I guess I wanted to mechanic for him, obviously, because I was building it, but like we didn't necessarily like have a conversation. And then kind of like Jeffrey kind of was assumed that I was mechanicking, and I mean I did too. So that's kind of all came. And then I was excited. I was excited about doing it all together. But
of course,
yeah. Again, more layers to the story, and how we were trying to figure out how this all works together, how we work together, and how the two programs come together and become one, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome. And I said this to Jeffrey, but I think it's so cool because, you know, obviously you guys go back to racing each other as youth riders. And then, you know, your dads both kind of being fiery guys, and like, you know, everybody's competitive. But then it also was like, in my mind, it was like, well, you know, if I'm Jeffrey, like a recipe for success looks like, or is, getting you and you know, your dad obviously part of the program, because both of you are people who like just want to be around racing, just want to be part of a racing program, have so much to give to a race program. So it used to be your racing program, now it's Jeffrey's. And in my mind, that's why, and I don't know what I guess my expectations were, but I knew this was going to be a good marriage, because all of you, and you could tell like Jeffrey's commitment too, he's going the extra mile. I mean, he looks differently than he's ever looked before, right? So, I mean, you could just tell he's all in on this. And I knew that you guys, your family, your crew was going to match that exact same, you know, intensity or whatever the word is. Exactly. And I knew that was going to be a recipe for success for all of you guys.
Yeah. And I think Jeffrey, I think he saw that too, right from the beginning, is because like we go back to the early 2000s, you know, late 90s of like knowing each other and racing. So I think he knew what to expect out of me. I knew what to expect from him. I knew his personality. He knew my personality. You know, I think instantly knew that we had something good going. And I think that's made it an easy decision for both ends of us. Going into it blindly with a rider that I may not know as well, definitely would not have worked out as well as it has. So, and also it allowed Jeffrey to trust me doing this, because how many pro riders would just sign up to let someone build their bike? I mean, you know, anyone.
But like knowing you, and I guess not everybody knows you the way I know you, but knowing you, I knew that those bikes were going to be meticulous when they showed up at round one, right? Like I knew they were going to be spot on. So there's very few people that I would want building something for me. I'm sure Jeffrey feels the same way, but you would be one of the people on that list, you know?
Yeah. And that's, you know, what was funny about the entire thing, and you mentioned it, is like, I have been meticulous about the way I do things, and we've done it for so long. But, you know, when you start to get this level and you're also building for someone else, I even started to second guess everything that I've done over the years, because I want it to be even that much better. And so luckily, I had a good group of guys around me at the shop as well to help. Blake from DBC Racing helped build the bike as well. And we really spent an absurd amount of time really going through this bike. And so far, obviously the first 3 rounds, you know, knock on wood, have been great. And hopefully we can continue to carry that momentum forward. And we're building another bike actually right now that will end up racing probably round 6 and onward.
Okay. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's main part of a pro, you know, kind of program, is having more than one bike to race the season on. So I didn't even think about that. But so at the beginning of the season, or prior to the beginning of the season, like I was trying to figure out how much of an adjustment period there was going to be for this thing. Cause it's like you said, brand new team, people that have never worked together at this capacity before. Like I figured there was going to be a feeling out period for Jeffrey, for you guys, for everybody, for figuring out the bike. I mean, it's a different combination than Jeffrey's ran and all these things. And like, we really haven't seen any of that. And you kind of touched on, like, the bikes were getting finished up, like on their way to the track at Daytona at the opener, right? Like things came together late, and man, like he just you guys hit the ground running. It's been as good of a start as anybody could have expected, I think.
Yeah, no. And I think you're exactly right. Like when we were starting the entire program, you know, I didn't know what parts we were running per se. I didn't know like what I could suggest, that we run for parts, because there's a lot of companies that, I've gained great relationships with now, that I have connections with and speak with people on, regularly. So it's like, well, I have, do you want to run this part? Nope, I'm sponsored by this guy. Do you want to, and so that kind of went back and forth. But, luckily, Jeffrey did it right from the standpoint is he picked companies that he's worked with in the past and he knows very well, like Jody and Mark, those are two guys that he has a great relationship with. So he really tried to set himself up for success by sticking with what he knows and not necessarily venturing out. So I applaud Jeffrey for choosing that. If it was my program, I mean, ultimately I like to sit here and say that I would do something, maybe like 100%, like a little bit differently, but actually when I look at it, I don't think I would do it any differently than what Jeffrey did. I think he did a great job. And obviously the results show. I don't want to take any credit away from what Jeffrey has done. We're a large part of it, but we're also a very small part of his program. So a lot of the success is due to his choice and obviously trust in us,
For sure. So what I do want to comment on there is, he came on here and he talked about, like it was a good feeling for him, or it was empowering for him to be able to choose the people he wanted to choose, because he hasn't been able to do that in a long time. He's ridden for teams. He's ridden for, multiple different kind of organizations or groups at this point. So he was excited to pick the stuff that he wanted to run. And I think, again, like I think I've used the word empowered or whatever, when it comes to Jeffrey, 25 times as this season has, led up to this season and then the season has began. But I think you can see that in his riding. Like he's riding for people that he, wants to be associated with, wants to get on the podium for, wants to win for. And I think you can almost see that in his riding. And like I said before, like, to be honest with you, I'm sure that like the expectations for all of you were very high. Like obviously you had high expectations or you wouldn't be doing this, but I don't think things could have went any better than they have so far. 2 podiums, top 5 at the other one, tough conditions at 2 of the 3. So it obviously wasn't easy for anybody. What an incredible start. It has to almost justify like this decision for you. Because if you would have been 3 races in and, stuff's breaking or whatever, I mean, whatever in another universe, things were happening. But, I'm sure you could, human nature would be to question it a little bit, but obviously that hasn't been the case. It's been as successful, I think, as you guys could have imagined this way through. And like you said, I mean, obviously credit to Jeffrey, obviously he's the one doing the riding and stuff, but if he was on a bike that wasn't up to snuff, it wasn't going to survive 2 of the 3 rounds so far. So credit to you guys too.
No, and I think just to touch on your point to like the expectations going into the season, I think that was the discussion that we had as a team before we even committed to Jeffrey was like, do we want Jeffrey to win? Like, absolutely. Like nobody goes to the races with any expectation other than to win and be competitive. But like ultimately, I think my dad and I's largest conversation is we wanted Jeffrey to have fun with it and be who he used to be when he entered the pro class. So our expectation was to have fun. I don't think Jeffrey was having fun there for many seasons. I think he was getting down on himself, obviously had some health conditions that were holding him back for a while. And so I really stressed that to Jeffrey when we started. I said, look, dude, I'm here to help you have fun. I said, if we have fun, the results are going to be there and we're going to do exactly what we've done the last 3 rounds and we're going to continue to do. And we have a blast. We look at each other and I laugh and we talk crap to each other and it's fun. And so I really think that's what he's doing this season. And I hope it continues.
I think that's so important. That's something that I've said so many times on these shows. It's one of the things I'm most prideful of in the kind of the messages that we preach about is if you can have fun, the results will fall into place too. Those will come too. And kind of like you're touching on, like even in the pro class, even at the tip of the spear, the peak of this sport, I think that still remains true. And yes, like Jeffrey dealt with tons of hardships and injuries and sickness and all these things where he wasn't having fun. And now to see it come, full circle, do a 180 where he's being successful. He's as successful, at the beginning of the season as he's ever been so far this season. He's riding awesome. He's happy to be there. Just like creating, I guess credit to you for knowing that that's what he needed and wanting that for everybody and then bringing that to him. We preached about that on all of these shows. It's just awesome to see Jeffrey happy again and at the races, and from the top down to have somebody know that this is what we need to do for Jeffrey. This is the most important thing. Obviously I think that that's the biggest reason why we're seeing all this success so far this season for Jeffrey. I really do.
Absolutely. I think we're going to continue to keep the same mindset moving forward. And, his expectations are, he wants to win. And I know he was down on himself about Texas a little bit and everything, but for myself, I knew where he wanted to be was well within reach. There's just a few things that that happened going into that race that definitely set him back a little bit at Texas. And he made adjustments because it's his program. He owns it, and you saw the results come at Ionia. I mean, couldn't have asked for a better weekend.
And the same thing that we came out of that Texas race saying hey, there's no shame in fifth. You're watching these dudes every weekend now. You're on the side of the track watching them, and the class is so gnarly. If a bad weekend is fifth, you're going to end up finishing top 3 in points. That's the reality of it.
Exactly. And I think, that's something that Jeffrey doesn't necessarily want to hear from me is my expectations, or not even my expectations, but my thought is look, let's get into the top 5. Better, we're going to be in the top 3. I mean, we've already seen, Brandon and Max, have off weekends. And as long as we can continue to evade those and put together solid weekends, we're going to be in the hunt at the end, and we're going to be right where we want to be and where Jeffrey expects to be. So he might be a little bit harder on himself than I am, but I'm looking at the long picture, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the competitive competitor in him. If he wasn't thinking that way, there'd probably be something wrong with him. So, obviously a great partnership so far. Let's talk about you for a second. So, how cool is it for you to be back at the races? Because we've touched on this before. We on other times that we've had you on the show here, but you chased the ATV Nationals for many years as a youth rider, and then a little bit more as an amateur later on. So, I assume it's pretty special for you to be back at the races personally, even though it's in a different role nowadays.
Absolutely. No, it is very cool. I mean, take aside, being the mechanic and everything, put all that aside. And it is, I don't know, I feel like a kid again to some extent, being there, seeing everyone and, driving by on the 90, giving people mucks and, everything else, being back around my friends. I couldn't have asked for anything more. That environment that the Nationals brings is, you don't get it anywhere else. I mean, anyone that listens to Digging Deep, they already know what I'm talking about, and it's something special. And so to be back is awesome. People have asked me if I'm going to come back and race again, and it's I can barely think right now, let alone come back and race. So it's been a wild ride this year.
Yeah, it's just awesome. I know exactly what you're kind of describing, obviously, and like you said, so many people do, but it's just you'll never find that place that's like those races, and how everybody there in the pits seems like family, and just that camaraderie, all your friends being there. Again, I don't have to, like you said, I don't have to describe it. You don't have to describe it. Everybody knows that feeling, but it's awesome for you to be back at the races. Okay. So let's touch on your crew chief, your mechanic role that you have now. So we know how treacherous the conditions were on Saturday. We heard a little bit about riding in it from Brandon Hoag, but for you as like you said, as the crew chief, as the mechanic, man, it makes a ton of work for you guys when the conditions are like that. I think the way it was on Saturday is about as bad as it could be
Yeah.
when you're the mechanic.
Yeah, I think going into the weekend, we knew the rain was coming, and like, again, Jeffrey definitely, prescribes how the weekend's going to go. And I knew the rain was coming. So Friday, I kind of wanted to like put the bigs on already and like start getting ready. He's like, nope, we're going to hold off. And it's like, as a mechanic, I'm going, I ain't got enough time as it is in the day, let alone like, let's wait till tomorrow.
Right.
So we waited till the next day. Luckily, everything got pushed back. And, obviously I'm up well before everyone's up, and I got the bikes out, and, we knew what was coming. But in terms of like prepping the bike, getting the duct tape out, we swap radiators, we put the big tires on, all those little things, and just start prepping it. Well, even then you go into between motos and qualifying. After the first qualifying, or was it first qualifying?
Only qualifying.
The only qualifying, pressure washing the bike, Big Jeff and we had 2 pressure washers on this thing to try and get it done in time. I mean, I turned to Big Jeff and I was like, this almost feels illegal that we got 2 pressure washers. Like, everyone's over there with 1 pressure washer. Like, it still took us a good hour to get that bike cleaned. And I wouldn't even say it was clean. It was like, just manageable.
Well, and DJ, I'll stop you just for 1 second, because I was thinking to myself as I was, because we're doing the fantasy game stuff and all of this, coverage and whatever. And I'm thinking like, man, by the time that these guys wash these bikes, it's going to be time to go racing. So it's so funny you say that, because there wasn't much more than an hour or an hour and a half by the time you guys got off the track till the time you guys had to be up there for staging.
So that's a good point. So we were, we had a meeting at 9:45 at Jody's trailer, and we decided we were going to go at 1, 3, and 5:30. That was from what I remember. And
but then the guys didn't really hit the track until almost 1:30.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's my point. So the amateurs decided amateurs were going to start racing at noon, and the first, which the first class was super mini, which whoever's decision that was, I don't know. I don't even want to say anything back, because it was just dumb. So it took them. That class was the only class that went before us, and we didn't hit the gate till 1:30, because every single one of those bikes, not one finished, Cody, not one bike finished. So they spent almost 30, 40 minutes pulling bikes off and trying to make it better. And so, but they didn't change the interval. So all of us were sitting up there.
All right, guys, rack them up. Let's get out there.
Yeah. So we're there at 1:20 getting onto the track, almost 20 minutes later, which to everyone who's running the show, like, oh, that's okay. Riders like, oh, that sucks, but it's okay. And the mechanics, Mark Baldwin and I, were looking at each other like, no, like the interval is going to get pushed back, right? Like, we're going to start at 3:30, right? And it didn't. 3 o'clock, 2:40, they blew the 10-minute horn.
Even from afar, DJ, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, man, okay, these guys just burned 25 minutes or whatever it was, because I think it was 1:28 when you guys first went on the track. And I'm like, man, like, they're gonna run out of time. Like, it took me right back to racing the pro class and kind of, with just me and Dad, like, doing our own program. And it was like, man, like, I don't think it would have got done.
No. And Jeffrey only did, I believe, 3 laps in the qualifier. Might have been 4, 3 or 4, either way. Okay. And then he pulled off, because we knew like we were short on time. So he put in like a fast lap, and a good lap. He was 5th. And so he comes by the next time, and he slows down, and he looks over and sees that it's 5th, and he's like, okay. Well, then he puts in another lap, and it was faster. After he slowed down and looked at us, I don't know what he did, but it was a faster lap. It moved to 4th. And so then he pulled off, which, then I booked it back to get going and getting the bike ready for the first heat.
Right.
And I got a little bit of tidbit information that we'll touch on at the end of all of this to make this win even a little bit more sweeter from a mechanic standpoint. But the mud nobody can underestimate the amount of time, like how short an hour and a half or 2 hours feels between motos.
Oh
like
my gosh.
it is literally 20 minutes by the time everything's said and done.
Hey, thankfully for the motos themselves, or at least after that first moto going into the second moto, he got a good start, because some of those quads that were at the back of the pack, like, I don't know how they ever came clean. They're probably still not clean. So
no.
Thankfully he got 2 good starts and made that part of the job a little easier.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that I think strategy wise benefited us greatly, is in both motos we chose not to take the sight lap.
Good call.
So,
yeah, good call. I couldn't believe basically everyone was taking it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know why they did. Actually, what triggered it is Bryce goes, I'm going to take the sight lap. And I heard him say that. And so I walked up to Jeffrey. I'm like, we don't have to take it, right? Like, we don't have to. And he goes, no. And he goes, I'm like, you're not going to take it, right? And he goes, well, and he kind of looks around, everyone starts taking off. And then Chad and Joel stuck back. And then he goes, I'm not going to take it either. I'm like, good. I'm like, why be, 20 pounds heavier than everyone else? And I think that gave everyone who stayed back definitely an edge to get out there. I think that was a game, made a big difference, let's say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I couldn't believe that anybody was taking it at first when I'm seeing this. I couldn't believe it. So I'm glad that you guys did that. Obviously, like, I think you saw that. I mean, basically, like, the guys that skipped it were at the front of the pack there. So I think that was a big part of that. So, and you, I think we touched on this a little bit, maybe before we hit record on this, but you guys are doing all of the bike stuff, right? Like, you're taking the bike back home, doing all the prep work in between races and such. So a lot of work, DJ, a lot of work goes into that.
I have not bringing the bike back. So
okay.
So we've been doing a lot of the prep work on Friday. So Jeffrey gets the bike, basically cleaned up and ready to go. And for the most part, everything's, the stuff that we need to go through, we know what it's going to be, and we prepare for it. We either bring it, or, like this last round, we actually pulled the motor. I was there a little bit late on Friday, so Jeffrey ended up putting the motor in. And then, I did the final button up and everything like that as to go. But it was kind of weird at the beginning of the year. We talked about like how it was all going to work, and I wasn't for sure, like, these further rounds away, if it like made sense for me to take it back. So probably after Pennsylvania, I'll probably start, I might start taking the bike back with me. But when they were really far away, it was like, just cost wise, it didn't make sense for me to do it, so
Gotcha.
We'll see.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that at least lightens the load for you a little bit in between races, even though it might be crazy on Fridays at the races, heading into the race weekend. At least it's a little less hectic in between races, at least for you guys. But yeah, like I said, a ton of work. And again, I just think it's so damn cool. 2 old competitors get together to make this happen. And it wasn't that long ago, DJ, that it seemed like a foregone conclusion that we were never going to see this version of Jeffrey again. Yet here we are. He's hauling the mails. He's having fun. Man, it's like we just hit the rewind, and this is 5-6 years ago again, where he's really thriving. It's amazing. I didn't think that we were going to see this, especially when I started to hear he was going to go out on his own. I feel like before I knew you were in the picture, like I had some doubts, not because of Jeffrey, just knowing how hard it is to put a program together. And man, what just a perfect marriage that this has been. Obviously, like I said, and like you said, I think too, the results speak for themselves so far, and it's been awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we touched on before is the trust portion in all of this, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and as a mechanic side of it. So Jeffrey put it on the podium this weekend with like a little bit extra something that made it even more difficult. So we come off the track, and he goes, oh, my carrier's blown on this thing. And I was like, no way. And we start, we put a brand new carrier in before that round. He goes, well, the axle must be bent. I'm like, no, it's not, looks okay. And we look down, and literally he was running with 3 lug nuts. So we torqued the lug nuts before every race, or literally before each main and heat and everything else. So I know for a fact they were tight without question. It was actually the first thing I did. And I have no idea, maybe the bigs put a little bit more stress on them. I don't know if the wheels were a little bit, like the holes were a little elongated or something. I mean, it wasn't like they're a brand new set of wheels. Either way, I don't know what happened or how it did, but yeah, he had literally 3 lug nuts left on his bike and pulled off a podium. And that was the tidbit that I wanted to say that probably a whole lot of people won't know until they hear this, that's what happened. So it was wild. And, like I said to Jeffrey this past week, I think the biggest thing that I enjoy most out of all of this is that you trust me, that, that when the bike goes to the line, that it is ready to go. And he does 100%. He knew that, obviously I would never send him out there with a loose wheel, and something had to have happened. And that's the level of trust and relationship that him and I have, and that you have to have a successful program is a mechanic like that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that connection, exactly. You have to have that trust. And I think that trust allows a rider to go a little faster, right? Like it's, maybe for you or I, like it's, your own last check is what kind of, it gives you that peace of mind. And for, a pro rider, a lot of times it's a good mechanic, and that's obviously what you've proven to be so far. But man, what a crazy story to think that it came maybe that close to things going sideways or whatever, but so glad it didn't. So Jeffrey gets out of there, another podium, 2 on the year so far, which is amazing. He's 4th in points, just 6 points out of 3rd. And we kind of touched on that before, but if he can stay consistent, man, that top 3 in points looks very doable right now. It's right in front of him. And especially with the weather and track conditions and everything that these guys have seen so far, to have everything in front of you, right in front of you, a couple races into the season after, some of the hurdles so far, man, that's just a great position to be in for Jeffrey and for you guys as a whole.
Yeah, I think we're extremely, as the season goes on now too, again, we get closer to home. So, I'm going to have a little bit more help with us at the races and stuff. And it takes a whole team, Jeffrey, Big Jeff's dad helps. I'm definitely not the only one that's behind all of this. It's Jeffrey helped change the clutches before the second heat. When he says he is running his program, he is running his program, and he is doing everything possible to make it successful. And the people, not only myself, but just the fans and other riders that are helping support him, it's huge, and he appreciates it more than anyone. I mean, he really does, and I think that's what's given me more excitement to go each and every week, is to see like how much he appreciates it and how hard he's working.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted, like I said, I wanted to bring you on for a chat like this for a while, because we heard from Jeffrey, kind of putting his whole thing together, but I wanted to hear about all this from your perspective. I knew that you were going to be passionate about it. I knew that you were going to be pumped up to be a part of this and talk about it too. So I can't thank you enough. I just wanted to hear, like how invested you are, knowing how invested you are. I just wanted to hear all about it. And I knew you being at the races, seeing the pictures of you and Jeffrey at the line together. I don't know. It just seems so cool to me. I needed to hear about it. So I can't thank you enough for jumping on here with us. I appreciate your time so much. And obviously take this opportunity to thank you for all you do for me personally, all you do for the ATV community as a whole. Man, you guys continue to slay it at Rocket Machining and Design. So again, like just so stoked to be here with you, pal.
I appreciate it, Cody. And, again, thank you all the riders that continue to support us and work with us as a company. I can't thank you enough for everything and making this possible from our side of it too. So if there's anything anyone needs or has any questions, please reach out. Myself and Jake is someone that a lot of people talk to. We are always here to talk and talk racing. So I've said that before, and I'll continue to say it. So I appreciate it, Cody, again. And, again, love to talk whenever, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, pal, for everything. Thanks for doing this. I look forward to doing this again soon. And yeah, touching on Rocket Machining and Design stuff, you guys got the market cornered. So just keep doing your thing.
I appreciate it, Cody. Take it easy.
Thanks so much, pal. Great job there in Georgia. We so freaking stoked to see all the success you guys are having. So thanks as a fan and a friend of Jeffrey's. Thank you for all that you're doing for him too.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing you soon at the races, man.
Yes, sir. That's owner of Rocket Machining and Design, DJ Spurling, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by Manscaped. Thank you, sir. As the number one podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DIGGINGDEEP20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Success in the ATV MX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymauer Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymauer, at Haymauer Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Offices located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
All right, back here with Casey Greek and Josh Klein on Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. And Josh, last year I kept calling it a renaissance year for Jeffrey Rastrelli, and that was true. But this year might be the best version of Jeffrey we've ever seen. I'm starting to think that this might be the best ever that we've seen for Jeffrey. And 5 years ago, he was a guy that could be on the podium almost every weekend or every other weekend. It seemed like him and Thomas Brown went back and forth, but man, like he's been impressive this year. And I touched on this in a post on Digging Deep's social channels, but last year at Aonia Pass, it was like Jeffrey was, it was like finally monkey off my back. 2 years has gone by and I'm finally getting on the podium for the first time in those last 2 calendar years. And this year, man, like, he's very much expected. That's where he expects to be. And he looks the part of a rider that expects to be on the podium every time we've seen him hit the track so far in 2022.
Yeah. And I'm going to go on a limb here, and you know me for doing this. Jeffrey takes the 2 spot at High Point. He has a history. He has a history there. You go back to 2018, he went 3-3 for a 3rd place. Joel went 2-1 for a 1. Chad went 1-2 for a 2.
Hey, and Jeffrey almost won that first moto there.
Yeah. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say he's going to take the 2 spot. He's going to go right behind Joel. Joel has a good history there. He went 1-1 last year. Chad went 2-2. But
hey, this is why you're always so good on the podcast, Josh, because you always come with these hot takes every time.
Somebody has to.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, and he's got a great team behind him this year. He's got DJ and then Rocket, all them, supporting him, and his machine looks phenomenal. Just he looks so smooth and relaxed on the bike, and having fun, goofing around with the rest of the guys. Jeffrey is being Jeffrey. Jeffrey knows where he belongs. Jeffrey is strong. He's there. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he is going to lay up. He is going to keep racing hard, having fun, doing what Jeffrey does. Jeffrey Rastrelli, number 2 position, overall High Point this year.
Yeah. It very well could happen. Yes, you're exactly right. He's been really good there in the past. He almost won that first moto there at High Point. I think that for his whole career, that's the one that feels like it got away for him. And yeah, like credit to DJ and everybody in that program there. We just heard from DJ. Credit to him because he single-handedly knew what Jeffrey needed and has helped create an environment for Jeffrey to thrive. I think that it's the perfect marriage. That's why I wanted to get DJ on to talk about it. And so another awesome podium performance for Jeffrey. Okay, so we went over the Pro Class podium. I do want to tie up Moto 2 yet, just some stragglers that we haven't totally tied up yet. So Bryce Ford, he finishes 3rd in that one. 4-3 earned him 4th overall. Smart veteran-like ride for Bryce in tough conditions, Casey. And this is something that we touched on a little bit already, but he just continues to look like a smart, seasoned veteran at this point. And weekend after weekend, he's kind of proving that to us.
Oh, looks like we lost Casey Greek actually, so it'll just be Josh and I the rest of the way. No big deal.
With Bryce, like he's made all the improvements and all the aspects of growth that he's shown us has been exactly what I wanted to see from him in year 3 of his professional career. And now at this point, man, like he looks like a guy who is, we've had high hopes. We've had high expectations. We've, speculated on what, when he's going to be up there at the mix at the front of the pack and stuff. But what we've seen this year proves to me that he's going to be able to sustain this. Like that's how it looks to me. He looks like a guy that's going to be able to do this long-term. And that's what I wanted to see from Bryce. So want to move on here because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So the last 2 things I want to touch on specific to Moto 2, one of which is a guy that we already heard from. Brandon Hoag racing up through poor conditions to finish 5th in that second moto was really impressive. And Josh, I also want to let you touch on, I want to tell you, like, I was massively impressed with Zach Decker, who ran top 5 for the majority of that second moto. And he ended up earning 6th eventually in that Moto 2 there. And I was really impressed by him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the frustration of being, stuck in the mud, Moto 1, to coming out, and he's having a phenomenal year, rookie season.
Yeah. But you see it. He's showing us glimpses. Yeah.
Right. And it absolutely, had we seen good weather and a stronger showing from the entire field. I wouldn't have put it past Zach to be top 5.
Mhm.
Yeah, him and Max last year or 2 years ago. Remember what? Yeah, 2 years ago I think it was. They battled at Aonia,
Yep.
and it was a phenomenal
2020,
race. I think Zach got
2020.
yep, because Zach got hurt, I believe, shortly after that.
Mhm.
But he is fast at that track, and in the mud, he proved how fast he is. But how much faster would he be under the good conditions of that track? I think it would be a phenomenal race. But to his credit, he did what he had to in the second moto and finished off where I think he belongs, top 10. I don't put it in any other caliber anywhere else. Zach Decker will take Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah, no doubt in my mind. Yeah, he's been on a tear. And this is typical. Like with him, he's been really impressive. Like you said, it's been a really impressive season for him so far. We saw him 6th at Daytona. Like he showed us glimpses of being really, really solid this season. So let's kind of finish this whole pro class thing. So as is typical with mud races, if you're not at the start-ish, if you're not at the front-ish of the pack, just turns into survival. We kind of went over that already talking about the first moto. So let's go over the overall finishes. So Patrick, Wienen, Rustrelli was your podium, of course. Bryce Ford and Brandon Hoag impressively finished out the top 5. Another great day in the mud for Michael Allred. He was 6th overall. We kind of touched on him a little bit. Nick Janusa brought home 7th overall in the day, 5.8 scores, 5.8 moto finishes for Nick Janusa there. And then another impressive day for Cody Ford, 8th overall, 7.12 scores. So he was, obviously hindered a little bit by that get off in the first moto, and then obviously not getting the start he wanted in the second moto. He still salvaged 8th overall on the day. He's had a really strong season so far. Yeah, he killed it, man. He killed it. Comes away with another solid, man. It's been a good start to the season for him. And I'm even seeing some people talking about it online in the comment sections of some of our posts and stuff, talking about how good of a season he had. So that makes me happy. He's a guy that I pull for too. So good, solid ride for Cody Ford there, 8th overall. Yeah. Hey, that tier 3 is tough there with Zach Decker, Michael Allred. I had this weekend because it was muddy. I'm going to pick him every time it's muddy. He doesn't do me wrong. Cody has obviously been really shining. And then Logan has always been my staple pick there. And yeah, like it's been really competitive. It's been fun to watch. So yeah, it's awesome. It's so competitive, and class is not predictable right now, which is so fun for us as fans. And what I was going to ask there is, does anybody know about this guy? Cottrell Altamirano, 9th overall. Really, really impressive. He wasn't even racing the pro class at the beginning of the year. What a day for the Argentinian. Does anybody know him or about his program? He killed it.
I was in at Tech when they come rolling through, and I kind of was scratching my head because I could have sworn I saw him run Pro-Am too. And then I was like, okay, I'm like, well, he's getting his seat time in, I give him credit for that. And he did. I think he made his presence known. And I think people are going to start looking around and be like, okay, yeah, he looks strong. He's looks like a strong rider. So, I mean, I can't say he's not going to be in the fight. We're just going to have to see as the year goes, if he has, a certain style that he prefers more than others, and we'll just be along for that ride. Cause yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily think of an Argentinian as being a good mud rider, but man, like he put it together, both motos, he killed it. So 9th overall for him was really impressive. And then Zach Decker rounded out the top 10, followed by, and this is a list of stacked, really good guys that obviously just had some really tough luck in the mud. Outside of the top 10 was Logan Stanfield, 11th, followed by Wesley Wolf, Max Lindquist, Cesar Jimenez, Patrick Chiarini, Vince Merman, and Marshall Smith rounded out the overall field there. But that wasn't like the original finishes that were posted. I actually had to switch up some of my posts because things changed. So originally there were multiple riders with DQs next to their names, but eventually it looked like, they righted that wrong and threw out those disqualifications. I obviously, when I saw those DQs, I obviously knew what that meant. I knew what was going on, that some people had gotten outside assistance, and I was hoping that it was going to be fixed. Because like the conditions were so tough. You got off that main line, you got, in the, in or out of the mechanics area or off the track or wherever, and you get stuck. like, I was just glad that that got fixed. And yeah, like how much it means to those guys. It means a ton to fantasy stuff too. Like at first we calculated the fantasy stuff, and with those zeros loom large. And then when they updated the points, we updated the game as well. And it didn't affect the winner, but it affected a lot of people in the middle of the pack. Like I went from finishing 38th to finishing 70 something. So that meant that many people moved up, because, you know, Zach Decker scored them 6 more points or whatever it was. So yeah, I'm glad that that was fixed. And most of all, I joke with the fantasy game, but it was legit. But also most of all for those guys that it was fixed is a big thing. So after the mud settled, Hetrick leaves Georgia with the 21-point advantage over Wienen, followed by Bryce Ford, who is another 3 back. 6 more back is Rustrelli in 4th, and Hoag rounds out the top 5 in points. Let's toss it to one last break, and then we'll come back quickly to cover the amateurs and look ahead to High Point. Stay with us.
Insurance. It's not something everyone likes to talk about, but let's face it, if you race motocross, it's something you should have. Integrated Financial Concepts is an independent financial service and insurance firm who offers moto-friendly insurance and helps out riders like Nick Janusa, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Joel Hetrick gain confidence on the track. With their unique Safe to Race and Safe to Ride programs, if you qualify, they have the ability to offer life insurance with living benefits to those who ride. With these living benefits, you may have the ability to access a portion of your life insurance policy while you're still living, for things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or chronic illness. They can also help with many other things, such as home, auto, motorhome, and trailer insurance, as well as college planning, special needs planning, payroll processing, as well as group health benefits for your business. So whether something happens on or off the track, Integrated Financial Concepts has you covered. With their complimentary one-on-one appointments, what are you waiting for? Reach out to Mike Daniele at DANIELE_Michael at nlgroupmail.com today and see how Integrated Financial Concepts can help you. Living benefit riders are supplemental benefits that can be added to a life insurance policy and are not suitable unless you have the need for life insurance. Riders are optional and may require additional premium and may not be available in all states or on all products. This is not a solicitation for any specific insurance policy.
Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by their 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late-model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models, from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. We recite on every Digging Deep episode that we are all about aligning with others who share our passion and love for ATVs, and that's exactly what Blendzall is. For more than 60 years, Blendzall Racing Oil has been the secret choice of many championship-winning riders and engine builders. From World Championship kart racing in Europe to California Speedway racing or the mud and rocks of East Coast cross-country racing, thousands of hardcore racers know that nothing out-lubricates or outperforms Blendzall. Even with Blenzall's wide reach into all forms of racing, Blenzall's lead man David Schloss admits that ATV riders are his people. In fact, he's been an ATV enthusiast since 1986 when he first threw a leg over a Suzuki Quad Sport 230. Fun fact, his passion for ATV racing even led him to launch a popular ATV racing magazine in the mid-2000s called ATV Insider. So Blenzall is a small family-owned business that blends and bottles all of its products in Ohio and has ATV roots. Sign us up. That's why Blenzall is the oil choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. To learn more about Blenzall's rich heritage or to shop Blenzall's full line of 2T and 4T racing lubricants, visit Blenzall.com and follow them at Blenzall on Instagram. Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant. The best power sports coolant on the market, Evans prevents overheating and boilover so you need not worry about harming your engine or suffering a premature end to your ride no matter what the conditions. Designed for use in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, and other power sports equipment, when conditions are at their worst, Evans is at its best. Upgrade to Evans now to avoid overheating and boilover next time you hit the track or trail. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 at checkout to save at evanscoolant.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show.
All right, back here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. And guys, Pro-Am might have been the craziest racing of the weekend. They raced Sunday on a dry track, but that didn't stop it from being absolutely wild. So Joseph Chambers led every lap of Moto 1 and was in position to sweep both motos as he led early in Moto 2 as well. But then a miscue left him scrambling just to salvage a podium spot. What did you see from Joe Chambers in Georgia? Josh, tell us what you saw from Joe Chambers there, Josh, because he was flying. It looked like in the Pro-Am motos there, he was cooking, and man, he was impressive. So tell us what you saw from Joseph Chambers.
Chambers looks phenomenal. He went out, he handled it, and he's got a unique style. You can pick him out of, everybody riding. The lanky look, the way he goes over the jumps.
The way he sucks, the way he sucks the jumps up is what makes it look like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like he's doing a reverse chin up, like his arms coming up, pulling the quad up, and he lands smooth. And on the downside, he's on the gas and trying to extend at every point he can. And a second moto, he took a nasty digger. He went down and he hurt himself. He came off the quad and at the podium and was absolutely just hunched over, limping, jabbed himself good with the bars. He, just like Cody Ford, after his get off, I haven't looked at lap times. I'd love to see him because he was absolutely flying around that track and, came out with a podium at the end of the day. He's definitely established his spot and doing his thing. That was a good podium. Unfortunate for Blair. Last lap, checkers in sight. He's one of my sponsored riders. So, he came around the track, white flag lap, and he looked at me, and Blair does this on occasion. He'll just shake his head. And I'm thinking, what is he shaking his head for? I don't know if it was cutting out, prior to, or he knew something was coming. So he comes around and I'm like, bro, do not do this. Like, what is going on? So I don't know. So all of a sudden I look and the famous Aonia, I guess I'll say cheerleader flagger is in the back corner, and he is arm pumping these guys around the track. And all of a sudden I see this little white helmet go up the inside roller and roll back down. And I went, no way, it's Blair. And Dane Molander goes around. And Blair had a good lead, and Dane comes around, and it is what it is. I'm glad it wasn't a motor issue, but you can bet that there's going to be some things that happen we know Blair's setup's a little different, but I have a feeling this won't happen again.
Right. It was obviously looking like it was Blair's for the taking there. He was on last week's show. Awesome guest and a guy I know that both of you guys pull for. So he was third in Moto 1. He inherits the Moto 2 lead from Joseph Chambers there. And yes, like you said, credit to Joseph Chambers. He was in scramble mode to just get on the podium. Then after he picks himself up off the deck, he was flying. But yeah, it looked like it was Blair's race for the taking. And then he runs out of gas. Obviously, like people think it's a motor problem or whatever. He runs out of gas. I'm thinking, how does that happen? Blair rode a killer race. Blair rode a killer race just to run out of gas, to have his machine run out of gas that close to the finish line with a Pro-Am, overall win in the bag, a moto win in the bag, to run out of, gas with the finish line in sight is just such a tough thing to process. It's hard to wrap your head around that. So obviously a tough break for him. So he only led one lap on the day, but it just so happened to be the most important one. Dane Molander grabs the lead on the final lap of Moto 2 to win the Pro-Am overall, the first Pro-Am overall win of his career. Amazing performance for Molander too, for Dane there. The action in Pro-Am in general was incredible. It was hard to just follow. Like, that's why I posted about it. It was hard to follow all the swings and ups and downs. And, at one point, one guy's going to win the overall, and then another guy's going to win the overall, and then a third guy ends up winning it. So just crazy, and try to keep tabs on all of that was a tough thing to do during the motos there. So the Pro-Am podium ended up being made up of winner Dane Molander, followed by Joseph Chambers second. Really, really impressive ride back to second overall for him. And then Aaron Salinas finished out the podium in third. Let's quickly kind of just wrap up the rest of our notable amateur racing here. So Brett Musig kept his streak alive in the mud on Saturday in Pro Sport. He won his third consecutive overall ahead of Blair Miller and JJ Launderville, who joined him on the podium. Credit to JJ Launderville for grabbing his first Pro Sport podium. We knew that was inevitable. I think that we all saw that coming eventually. WMX was crazy in the mud on Saturday as well, featuring multiple huge changes on the last lap of Moto 2 that resulted in Ellie Roush getting the win, followed by Neve Shaw and Kinsey Osborne, who rounded out the podium there. So rarely, especially at a national event, does somebody come out and win something completely unexpected. And that's always so special to me. So for Ellie Roush to grab that win in WMX was huge. That was awesome. And the craziness and the unpredictability and how good, I guess, the WMX racing has been so far this season kind of continues. So Josh, what about you? Do you have anybody that you want to touch on to complete our amateur coverage? Josh, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback on that with Ellie, it was kind of comical because they come off the track for the podium and Kinsey comes over to her and goes, "Hey," she goes, "How'd you do? How'd you finish?" And she looks at her, she goes, "I think I got first overall." And the two of them started hugging, jumping, and it was who was in front of you. You could, that type of deal. But to see, competitors excited and happy for each other like that, that was pretty cool to see. And unfortunate for Andrea, she's not on the podium. She didn't exactly show her 100% in the mud, but she came back on Sunday and it was fun to watch.
Just a bunch of awesome racing, awesome overall. But I continue to be super pumped about giving the WMX class its deserved coverage here on Digging Deep. I enjoy that. And there was just awesome racing across the board in the amateur classes. Obviously, some of them, majority of the classes only ended up being a one moto format on Sunday, but hopefully we get to High Point, everything gets back to normal. So let's finish up then by looking forward to High Point. This is a place where traditionally Joel Hetrick has dominated. I truly think that when we get there, he's going to turn it into 4 in a row to kick off the 2022 season, which would set a record 6 consecutive overalls dating back to last season. That, obviously couldn't be a better spot for the series to go if you're Joel Hetrick, and then to be followed up by Ironman too. Like, that's probably the perfect recipe for a continued hot start for Joel Hetrick here. But Josh, we already kind of touched on what you expect from High Point, the fact that, you expect big things out of Jeffrey, possibly finishing runner up and stuff. So we probably don't even need to talk about expectations there. As far as High Point goes, one last question I will propose to you, Josh, and this is a perfect one for you with what you bring to the show. But the question that really maybe matters most when we look towards High Point is, what graphic scheme does Joel Hetrick and the Phoenix team have in mind for High Point? In my mind, I think it has to come down to either a Pittsburgh Steelers themed quad or possibly a West Virginia Mountaineers. That would be my bet. West Virginia Mountaineers would be my bet.
No, I totally agree, because I don't see the black and gold. I don't see that working well with the quad. And I just, Yeah, I'll go with Mountaineers on that one.
Well, I do think as a track there at High Point is obviously just outside of the West Virginia Mountaineers campus there in Morgantown. I feel like that is probably the perfect scheme there. That would be my best guess. But yeah, I think that's something that's been fun to kind of speculate going into these races. I think that's something that we're going to need to touch on week after week on these shows. It's kind of fun to think about what the Phoenix team is going to roll out. But guys, I appreciate your time so much. Obviously, we spent a bunch digging into all this stuff here. This took longer than I anticipated it. I think that happens every time. But with that, that's a wrap. Josh, always a pleasure. Thanks for all your help with the photos and keeping me in the loop of stuff going on at the races. And I look forward to doing this, more going forward. I just can't thank you enough for all of your time.
Hey, thanks, Cody. I appreciate it. It's always fun to come in and chat and throw some wild cards in there. And I'll be back again sometime whenever we can figure something out.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it so much and all your time. I know this is a big time commitment for everybody involved, for you, but I appreciate you making yourself available. And with that, we're out of here. All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties with Casey Greek there, but nonetheless, we're grateful for all his efforts here at Digging Deep. And major thanks to all of tonight's guests, Brandon Hoag, DJ Spurling, Josh Klein, and Casey Greek. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. I want to thank the Ford Brothers Racing family for all their help in keeping me in the loop at these races that I can't attend, and Josh Klein as well. He was on this episode. Josh Klein of PH3 Photos. He's been helping me a bunch at the races as well. So thanks to both of those groups for all their help and helping us come up with better content here at Digging Deep. And I said it last week, and I'll say it again. A major shout out and a thank you is deserved to Michelle Stillo at Rated MX for all their live video coverage of the ATV Motocross Nationals on the Rated MX Facebook page. Michelle, you rock. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the sport. I don't know what we would do without you. And thanks to our donors. You know who you are. We appreciate you so much. Thanks to our partners, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nomura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, Fourworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrated Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Blendzall Oil, the official oil choice of Digging Deep, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find it all on our website, and be sure to click those Rocky Mountain ATVMC and Amazon banners for all your gear and parts needs, everyday needs, and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise is available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out. We have new stuff coming, and we have a new addition to our merchandise on the website, so check that out as well today. And if you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. Give us a call using our voicemail line. Give us your reaction to the show, the races, and just about everything in between so we can play them on the show and react to what you have to say. That number is 920-569-3519. We want to hear from you, so give us a call. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff here in the 2022 season. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, our new show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy has me all fired up, continuing to be all fired up, and it's not too late for you to get in on all the prizes, the bragging rights, and all the fun. So if you haven't done so yet, head over to atvfantasy.com to sign up now, and shout out to our winners the last 2 weeks, Ayrton Knowles, all the way from across the pond in the UK, and Jimmy Breakbill. Give me your secrets, guys. I need them. We're getting smoked in ATV Fantasy this year. Be a friend, tell a friend. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that,
For Brandon Hoag, DJ Spurling, Josh Klein, Casey Greek, Brooke Catherine, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the #1 podcast in ATV racing with over 151,000 downloads last month in 87 total countries. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad leaders are freaking gnarly.